Crunker has the best movement of any game, but most players barely learn to slide hop and stop there. In this video, I will teach you everything about movement, probably in too much detail, so you can become a better Crunker player. This includes slide hopping, moon jumping, strafing, wall jumping, impulse boosting, slipping, ADS, speed control, curve sliding, curve boosting, scroll jumping, pixel walking, wall clipping, Insta Jumping, ramp boosting, FPS, and FPS Slowdown. Shift to slide, then space to jump. It's not that complicated. You can slide hop in any direction by turning before or while you slide hop. This is all most tutorials will teach you. The later you press space after you release shift, the higher your jump will be. The highest slide hop is called a moon jump, where you wait as long as possible between releasing shift and pressing space. Jumping before releasing shift is called a low jump. Strafing is when you turn to the side and hold down both W and A or W and D. You move 1.2 times as fast when strafing. This technique is one of the best ways to gain speed quickly. This is the most important speedrunning technique. ADSing is the best way to control your slide hopping. ADSing, or aiming down sights, makes you jump lower and slows you down. It can also be used to speed up though. If you ADS at the beginning of your slide hop and release immediately, you will get a small speed boost compared to a normal slide hop. This is why you always see people starting to throw their knife in speedrunning. Slipping is where you don't press space after using shift to slide. This can be used to go down ramps or to come down from an object with more control. For example, the tunnel on Sandstorm is impossible to slide hop down, but you can use slips to do it without losing speed. Curve sliding is when you don't jump immediately after sliding, but slide around a corner and then jump. This gives you more control to your slide hopping, especially on pub maps. Impulse boosting is when you use the impulse of either the shotgun, rocket launcher, or sawed-off to get a speed boost. The most well-known is the shotgun jump, where you shoot the ground with an impulse weapon right after jumping to get a large jump, but you can also boost off the walls and even the floor to gain speed. It's time to get to some more complicated skills. Just know that some of these are glitches, so they could be different in the future. Scroll jumping is the key to going fast. Many players complain about not being able to go fast due to being on 60 FPS, but they don't know this trick. Enabling scroll jumping is easy. All you have to do is go to Settings, Controls, Keybinds, and then make a jump binded to both space and scroll. Now when you slide hop, you can hold down shift before hitting the floor as normal, but you can also scroll to slide hop quickly. The secret to speed in Crunker is for the slide and the jump to be as close as possible, so scroll jump is the best way to gain speed. It is also very consistent. A scroll jump will always be the same height, so it is often used in setups for impossible jumps. You can also combine scroll jumping with most of the other tricks in this video, such as ADSing, to get even more speed. Wall clipping is in almost every game. It relies on speed and FPS, two things that are very important in Crunker. Wall clipping happens when you are on one side of the wall on one frame, and then the other side of the wall the next. If you are in the middle of the wall, it moves you back to where you should be, and you can't clip through the wall. To perform a wall clip, you need a lot of speed, relatively little FPS, and a thin wall. To better understand this, let's go to the classic map Race_Mario Kart. By playing on 40 FPS, it makes it easier to clip through walls because it checks where your position on the map is less frequently. As I turn around into the wall, what happens is I am wall clipping to the other side of the wall, hitting the teleporter, and then since I am going to the wrong direction, I wall clip again almost instantly on the next stage, and hit the teleporter to go to the last stage. When two objects are exactly vertical of each other, it creates what is known as a pixel glitch. You can stand on this spot as long as you are always walking into the wall. If you are not actively walking or sliding into the wall, you fall though. This means that you cannot slide hop away from the wall unless if you use an Insta Jump. Insta Jumping is a difficult topic to explain, so let me start by showing you a clip. This might seem normal to you, but if you look closely, this jump should not be possible. This jump is off of the pixel glitch. If you remember how pixel walking works, you should always have to be pushing against the wall to stay up, so this jump should be impossible since it is jumping away from the wall. but it can be done through an Insta Jump. Insta Jumping is when you press space before you hit the ground, which makes you jump as soon as you touch the floor. To understand how this works, I want you to imagine a 0 and a 1 in the code. A 0 means you can jump, and 1 means you can't. This number can only be changed in 2 ways. Jumping turns a 0 into a 1, then touching the ground makes the 1 a 0. If you jump, then try to insta-jump by pressing space early, it does not work because the game sees that there is a 1 and doesn't let you jump. Now if you fall off of something, you are in the air, but your number is still a 0, so you can hold down jump early, and the game will see that you can jump and makes you jump as soon as you hit the ground. In Littletown, you've probably had your slide hops ruined by the slight elevation changes that you can't slide over. By using curb boosting, you can use these annoyances as an advantage to gain speed. Curb boosting is when you slide down one of these elevation changes and press space as soon as you are over the lip. This will create an insta jump and a small speed boost when performed properly. Ramp boosting is one of the most useful things in movement, so naturally it's tied to FPS to make it difficult for low-spec players. When you jump into a ramp with enough speed, scroll jumping can give you a massive speed boost if you have a lot of FPS, and a decently fast speed boost with less FPS. The reason why this works relates to insta jumping. When you jump into a ramp, the general strategy is to have an angle higher than the angle of the ramp to jump over it. If you have an angle lower than that of the ramp, your slide hop stops since you can't jump off the ramp. But strange things happen when you use a scroll jump. When you jump with scrolling, it tells the game to jump very rapidly. So when you have a low angle when jumping into a ramp, the first of those jumps from the scroll doesn't make you go in the air, so you don't have to press shift again, and the 1 changes almost instantly back to a 0 since you are touching the floor. By scrolling fast, what happens is you can slide hop hundreds of times in a fraction of a second. Since slide hopping gives you speed, all of those jumps add up to a massive speed boost. One of the weirdest things about FPS is the slowdown that comes below 30 FPS. When you have very, very low FPS, the game turns into slow motion. On 1 FPS, you can basically hover in the air. I think the reason why this exists is to make wall clipping harder. If you could go just as fast as normal on 20 FPS, it would be very easy to clip through walls. Since not much is known about the low FPS slowdown, I decided to make a map to graph the time it takes to finish on different FPS. By using 60 FPS as the standard, I created this graph and discovered something never seen before. I was finishing the map faster on 30 FPS than 200 FPS. I had to ask Scuff to do the higher FPS test, and even on 500 frames per second, it wasn't finishing as fast as 30 FPS. So should everyone be speedrunning Crunker on 30 FPS from now on? No. Even though you can walk faster on 30 FPS, slide hopping is still slower with lower frames.